King Amenhotep IV Nefer kheperu, waen reigned from 1379 to 1362 BC. Modern research and excavations have demonstrated that King Amenhotep IV ascended to the throne immediately upon his father Amenhotep III's death, rather than sharing authority with him. According to the previously mentioned Amarna correspondence, Queen Tai, the mother of Amenhotep IV, wrote to the Mitanni king Tushratta, the son of the Mitanni king Shutarna, to inform him of her husband Amenhotep III's passing and to beg him to maintain his amicable relationship with her son, Amenhotep IV, the new king of Egypt. These letters suggest that Amenhotep IV did not take the throne of Egypt until after the passing of his father, Amenhotep III. Tushratta replied to Queen Tai's letter by stating that she must persuade her son, the king, to maintain these cordial relations between Egypt and the state of the Mitanni. It also serves as evidence of Queen Tai's power, both in terms of domestic and international affairs. The outcomes of the construction of the Akhenaten temple further demonstrated that King Amenhotep IV was not his father's equal in authority. Amenhotep IV constructed a temple for the deity Aten at the start of his reign in Thebes, and the 50,000 stones that have been found so far do not include any mention of his father, Amenhotep III. We would have seen his father's name or image engraved on the stones of this temple if Amenhotep IV and his father had been ruling partners. In her dissertation, Zakiyazaki also provided an explanation of the most current evidence demonstrating that Amenhotep IV did not share his father's rule. At the age of 16, Amenhotep IV took up the throne in Thebes, with the early years of his reign being marked by assistance from his mother, Queen Tai. According to the Gebel el-Silsila Stela, north of Kamambo, he began his existence by pledging loyalty to the state god Amun and even taking on the 5 customary hereditary titles for himself, just like his royal predecessors of that era. After that, he wed Nefertiti, a stunning and lovely woman whose nationality is still up for dispute among archaeologists. Although the consensus now is that she is the daughter of the officer I, who left for us a rock-cut tomb carrying his name in the Tel El Amarna necropolis, even if he was not buried there. Some of them think she is Egyptian, and some think she is Mitannian. In the western Valley of the Kings, west of Thebes, he excavated a royal tomb for himself. This was the same individual who subsequently came to rule under the name King I. His initial tomb in Tel El Amarna has walls that display his wife's pride in serving as Nefertiti's wet nurse. It's thought that she might be I's second wife, whom he wed following the passing of Nefertiti's mother. Since Nefertiti was still a small child when his first wife passed away, the second wife nursed her. This is especially true given that the name of Nefertiti's sister, Mutnehoimet, is written on the walls of the same tomb. The god Aten. Before Akhenaten started considering and advocating for his new religion, things had hardly settled for him. He was called Aten, the name of a single god who lives inside the sun's disk. Aten was nothing more than a fresh representation of a previously recognized solar phenomenon. It adopted a new name that debuted during the 12th dynasty in the Middle Kingdom. 2 conceptions were used to characterize it specifically, the sun star and the god who resides in this star. Aten persisted in using these 2 interpretations until the arrival of Akhenaten, who freed it from the first and adopted the second. Actually, in the language of the ancient Egyptians, the word Aten took the place of the word god, Neter. It appears that after realizing that Aten was nothing more than an imitation of the ancient god Re of the city of En-Shams, the priests of the god Amun were first forced to permit the king to construct the temple of the god Aten. Aten went inside the god Amun's stronghold. The priests of Amun interpreted this contentment on the grounds that their god was the greatest god, Amun, Re, the beloved god of the state throughout Egypt and even outside it, and that Aten was searching for followers and worshippers for him. Akhenaten built a massive temple for it east of the temple of Amun at Karnak. As a result, Aten was admitted into the Karnak sanctuary and given god status among the ancient Egyptians. In order to be the only one to serve his god, Aten, Akhenaten gave his full attention to the call to worship god Aten. In order to be the only one to serve his god, Aten, he chose Aten as his own god, dedicated himself to his worship, and adopted the title of the first servant of the god Re-Horakti who rejoices in the horizon, in his name Shu, which is the Aten. While his subjects honored Akhenaten, who rose to become one of the gods, only Akhenaten and his family worshipped the god Aten. According to the texts, King Akhenaten had a priest who served him during his lifetime and had the same title as Akhenaten in connection to Aten, which is the name of his throne or prenomen. Amun's priests started to notice that the new deity was different from the previous Egyptian gods, both in appearance and philosophy. He wasn't personified as an animal, as most of their gods were, or as a human, except at the beginning and in rare cases. Rather, he was the life-giving and happiness-filling force concealed in the sun's disk. The figure that was authorized by Ma'at, the goddess of truth, honesty, and justice, and which he saw with certain artistic embellishments of a religious nature, was the one that Akhenaten favored. We discover that he was depicted as a solar disk with the royal uraeus at its center and rays coming out of it that resembled lines and ended in human hands. Some of them bear one of two symbols, the Ankh sign, which represents life, or the Was sign, which represents happiness, and are only directed at the queen's and king's noses. This could imply that they received the blessing from the god Aten, who then gave it to the people who were worshipping him. Like all the Egyptian gods, Aten's name was mentioned first, without a cartouche. Then came the second stage, the first of its sort in the history of ancient Egypt, where Aten's entire name was enclosed in two cartouches, precisely like the names of Egyptian kings, implying that he was given the same treatment as Egyptian kings. In fact, a new phase emerged to validate this interpretation, the addition of the supplications, that were frequently appended to the names of the Egyptian kings to Aten's name, such as, "May he be granted life forever." The priests now knew exactly what Akhenaten wanted, and they started planning ways to undermine him and his new faith. Despite this, he did not stop working on it. Instead, he declared it a never-ending war against Amun and his priests and changed his name from Amenhotep, which meant that Amun is satisfied, to Akhenaten, which meant the beneficial, or the useful or the sincere, to Aten in the 6th year of his reign. Then, he traced the name of Amun by erasing it to all the temples and sacred sites, and not only in Thebes but also in most of Egypt, including his own name. After declaring his new faith to be the official state religion, he was unable to remain in Thebes, so he moved to a new location he created for himself, his family, and those who followed him. He named it the Horizon of Aten, and it is currently the city of Tel El Amarna, which is located on the eastern bank of the Nile close to Malwi in Minya. In order to demarcate the boundaries of his new city to the west and east, Akhenaten erected 14 rock-cut stelae at Tel El Amarna. In addition, he had temples dedicated to the deity Aten built there, and he had a massive royal mausoleum built for himself and his family. Regarding the nobles' tombs during his rule, they are different from those of the nobles in western Thebes and are rock-cut into the eastern mountains. The king and his family were shown in several large-scale images on the walls of the nobles' tombs at Tel El Amarna, while the tomb owners were depicted in smaller-scale scenes. As with Thebes, the walls of the nobles' tombs were adorned with scenes from the world, religion, and death, as we shall see later. The deceased, the owner of the tomb, assumed a prominent role in each of these events in clear large size. Some people think that the artwork created at Amarna during Akhenaten's reign depicts the reality in which the king lived. His enormous statues, which are presently on display at the Egyptian Museum, exaggerate Ma'at, which means the truth. They display the king's feeble physique, his delicately outlined narrow face, his thoughtful eyes, and his rounded, curved thighs. Put otherwise, it exhibits the king in the manner that most likely depicts him in reality rather than in the framework that presents the person in the greatest light, which is the art that was produced both before and after his reign. Scenes from his reign's commencement, however, demonstrate that the artists of Akhenaten's time started to portray him in this idealized framework, a representation that might not accurately reflect what he represents actually in reality. The king Akhenaten was not a fighter. Egypt started to lose control over the northern region of its empire during his reign because he disregarded the foreign policy of the kingdom. The communications from the Asian monarchs pleading with Akhenaten for assistance were disregarded since he was preoccupied with his religion and beliefs. Meeting the messengers who traveled from Asia to see him did not concern him. Taking advantage of the circumstances, the Hittite king Suppiluliuma expanded his rule over the Mitanni state and conquered all of Syria. The Phoenician cities fell one after another as a result of all of this, and the king of Egypt did nothing to protect his empire. The people of one city, Tunub, wrote to the king of Egypt more than 20 letters pleading for assistance, saying, "And now your city of Tunub is crying and its tears are flowing, and there is no helper for it." 20 letters have been dispatched to the king of Egypt, our lord, but no response has been received. When Akhenaten was only 32 years old, he passed away. The god king passed away, making it impossible for his followers to carry on their faith. When Akhenaten passed away, his beliefs and religion also died. The subjects lost their living symbol and, with it, their channel of communication with the god Aten lost.